Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Touched by a Horse. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, and I'm here with your host today, Daelyn Larche Sigmund. I love that name, Larche.
Thank you.
That's fun to say, as Buddy the Elf would say. That's fun to say.
I get to spell it a lot.
I bet you do. Daelyn, it's nice to meet you. I can't wait to talk to you today because I know that you have a very specific niche in terms of what you work with, and I won't spoil it. I'll just ask you, but let's just start there. Let's just start with who do you serve and what is your specific niche in the world?
So I have a real passion for grief and loss. When I was 19, I experienced incredible loss in my life. And I remember being in the bath one night, home from college. My grandpa had just died and he was my world. And I could hear my mom talking to my uncle on the phone saying, I don't know what to do for her. And I don't know how to help her. And, you know, tears flowing. And I didn't know how to help myself. I was 19. And, you know, as we talked about beforehand, I lost my grandpa. About a week later, I lost my first grade teacher, who really was the world to me also, and my inspiration for becoming a first grade teacher. Wow. I lost my suite mate from the year before. She and her parents and her sister were killed in a head-on collision. Wow. And I lost I was a resident assistant, and one of my residents committed suicide and was missing for several days before we found her. And I got to call her parents and tell her at the ripe old age of 19.
Wow.
And not long later, one of my sorority sisters was killed in a car wreck.
This was how much time frame between all of these?
Maybe 3 months, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I didn't know how to cope. I was a mess. I was literally looking through newspapers to see if there were people in the obituaries that I knew on a daily basis, because that's what I expected to have happen.
Right. Wow.
And fast forward 6.5 years ago, it was March 12th, 2013, I lost my 17-year-old son to stage 4 cancer. Wow. And again, my world was ripped. Goosebumps. My world was shattered.
Yeah.
Shattered. And again, didn't know how to help myself. Didn't know where to turn. Did some talk therapy. Felt like I was telling the same story every week for months and months and months. Right. Didn't know how to put the pieces back together, you know, in my life. And then I found equine gestalt coaching.
How did you find it, by the way? How did you get introduced to it?
A friend of mine knew a coach who was doing a retreat in Arizona, and she tagged me and said, Daelyn, you really need to do this retreat. You take such good care of everybody else through your nonprofit and all the other things you do. You need to take care of yourself. It's time for you to start healing. And that was about 3 years ago, and couldn't do it, couldn't afford it. Wasn't working again at the time. Had tried to go back to teaching, wasn't working. So I was in one of my off periods trying to reinvent myself again, and ended up, she did a GoFundMe, and within about a week and a half had raised enough money for 3 sessions of the coaching. Wow. And my very first session working with Devin and the horses, by the, you know, snot, what do you call it? Like the snot bubble cry.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
really
Just the ugly cry.
Because in Gestalt, we really get into it, and you have to live your pain again in order to finish it and heal from it. And after that first session, her horse literally stood next to me and with his right hoof did a cha-cha to the front and then to the back and to the front again and to the back. And I looked at my coach and said, what is he doing? You know, what do you think he's doing? He said, well, he's clearly happy. You know, why do you think that is? Because I finally was able to let some of that incredible heartache, that trauma, that grief, I was able to leave it there. And
what is it about Gestalt and this type of work that allowed you to leave it there, whereas in talk therapy you couldn't? Like, what's different that makes it allow you to leave it?
You know, in talk therapy, we get a really good intellectual understanding of what's going on.
Yeah.
For me, it was simply telling my story over and over and over again. And I didn't feel like that was helping me.
Right.
I
Right.
do
Right.
know there's definitely a place for that with so many people.
Right.
With the gestalt, we have that somatic response.
Mm-hmm.
We're finding where we feel it in our body. We're finishing, revisiting, finishing, closing up
Mm-hmm.
that piece of unfinished business,
Mm.
so that we can reopen the energy, get the energy flowing again,
Right.
and begin living again.
Right.
And the horses are magical
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
this, right? I know you
Yeah.
do a lot of these interviews and you
Right. Right.
hear it,
Yeah.
but
There's always great stories around the magic of that experience.
yeah, and it's hard to say it's magic, but they are such kind,
Mm.
gentle, understanding, compassionate, sensitive, energetic
Yeah.
beings who truly want to help us heal.
Right.
And they, almost like a sponge,
Yeah.
soak up our pain and that blockage of energy, and they're able to clear it for us,
Yeah.
take it, knowing that they get to drop it in the sand. It's
Right.
not their
Right.
job to keep it for us.
Right. Was
And
there a part of you as a parent going into that really didn't want to do it because you didn't want to relive the the pain of it, or were you excited about it, hoping that there was something next?
my first session, I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. I walked into it blindly. I just knew I got to meet some new person and
Yeah.
hang out with horses.
But before you got there, were you like, I don't really want to go, or were you like, I'm really excited to go?
I was excited because I got to hang out with the horse.
Oh, got it.
And
Nice.
yeah, and
Mm.
I knew that it was going to help me somehow and I would
Mm.
feel new. And that was about
Yeah.
it. I mean, I really did not know what I was there to do, except it
Mm.
was coaching,
Right.
right?
I know a
So
lot of parents. I would imagine that I know that you work with a lot of parents who have lost their children.
I do. Yeah.
And I'm curious, what do you notice? Like when you work with parents, are they also excited for moving on, or are they
Well, yeah. So
apprehensive?
going back to that, I have since done probably 4 more big pieces of work. And the
Mm-hmm.
biggest one that I was afraid to relive,
Mm-hmm.
but went into it knowing that it was going to heal me
Right.
and help me to walk forward in my life. The biggest piece was the moment that my son died. And
Mm-hmm.
I had such trauma over watching him die.
Mm.
It wasn't peaceful
Mm.
like you hear with older people. And I held my grandma's hand when she died. I held my great aunt's hand when she died. And they were old and it was very peaceful, but not for Austin. He was 17, not ready to go.
Yeah.
And so the memories of watching my baby die
Mm.
and then having them cover him up in the quilt and carry him down the stairs
Mm.
and out to the car,
Mm.
were very painful. And I could not, once I would get into that memory, I could not get out. And it was the
Yeah.
PTSD
Mm.
all over again. So I knew going in, to answer long story, I knew going into that piece of work that that's what I was going to experience that day.
Mm.
And it is scary going into your pain, knowing that you're going to relive your worst trauma
Right.
and your worst nightmare. And, but I think that it's completely necessary in order to completely heal that and start mending that huge canyon,
Yeah.
from having your heart ripped apart.
Yeah.
So it is daunting, it is scary, but
Yeah.
I believe as a gestaltist, it's necessary for your healing.
Right. I would think that someone who has lived under the shadow of, or the pain of losing a child at some point would want something new, would want to get on, would want to not have to live under the pain of that heaviness. Right.
Right.
But at the same time, I could see where parents would get stuck but I don't know if I don't know if I can go back and relive that was so painful. I don't know that I want to go back into a situation where I'd have to relive that pain.
Right.
It sounds like from you but it's through, like the way out is through, like
It's
you've
through.
got to go through.
Exactly. The way out is through. And at some point, as a parent, remember that movie? What was it? Was it Groundhog's Day, where you keep living the same day
Yeah.
over and over and
Yeah.
over and over?
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you,
Mm-hmm.
I made a conscious decision, and I think parents do, that they're ready to move forward. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean forgetting, it doesn't mean moving on, it's moving forward in
Right.
your life and
I like that.
allowing yourself
Mm-hmm.
to go ahead and heal,
Mm.
because living that life of pain is so freaking hard.
Mm.
The emotion, it's it's tiring, it's sad,
Sad. Yeah.
dark,
Yeah.
and I don't know anybody who wants to live that way,
Yeah.
right? And so the way forward is through.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think that with a loving horse holding space for you,
Mm.
and a loving coach who has been there and knows the pain that you're going through,
Yeah.
it's doable.
I think that's the thing I would want from a coach, is somebody who has been where I am, because every traumatic experience in its different ways. So somebody coming back from war versus somebody who lost a child versus, like, they all have their own unique topography or landscape, or like the way it is,
Right.
and that you have been through this particular landscape and probably know the things I'm telling myself, that you also, in addition to the horse, can hold space for me.
Yes.
And that I trust you. Like, I wouldn't want to go into a situation like that with someone who didn't understand the depths of pain and thoughts and places I go in my head. I would definitely want somebody who's been through, so that I can get through.
Because I can tell you, the the pain, the trauma of losing my son
Mm.
was a million times magnified over
Yeah.
what I went through with all that loss as a 19-year-old.
Right. Of
And
course. Yeah.
I truly do believe that this is my purpose here on this
Mm-hmm.
planet. Um,
Yeah.
I truly do believe that I am here to help parents grieve and complete that part of their journey, so that
Right.
they can find joy again. And it
Yeah.
is possible to find joy again, because here I am,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit. Cause I know it would be hard to imagine that there's life on the other side of this type of a loss, but like, you've guided parents through this, and not just parents, but other people who have lost friends, best friends, pets, any sort of significant loss. I know you've walked people through that. So like, what does life look like on the other side for those people that you've helped?
I would say there are definite rememberings, I like
Sure.
to call them.
Yeah.
One of my biggest fears after Austin died is that I would forget him.
Mm.
Because have you lost somebody significant in your life?
I've never had to lose someone like that. No.
Okay. Well, after a big loss, a grandparent, a best friend, after so many years,
Mm.
you get used to them being gone,
Yeah.
and you don't think about them every minute of every day, of every week, of every month anymore, right? And that was my biggest fear about losing Austin. I
Mm.
did not want to forget him. And I don't mean forget like he never existed,
Yeah.
um,
Right.
but a different forget,
Right.
And I think that is, I don't want to say that it's a relief, but it's a weight lifted,
Mm-hmm.
not to carry that intense sorrow
Mm. Right.
on my shoulders
Yeah.
every minute of every day. And, my office here is full of Austin. I showed you a picture earlier on my
Right.
desk, and I've
Yeah.
got some back there. Um, you can't see it, but it's kind of silly, but I have my whole desk right here is unicorns
Mm.
because he sends me signs. And for a long time, it was unicorns.
Hmm.
And so, as I think when you start to heal that grief
Mm-hmm.
and you become aware and you're open
Mm-hmm.
to the possibility that they are still here with us and for us,
Mm-hmm.
you do become able to find joy again. And you do open up to finding your new normal.
Yeah.
You
Mm.
do learn how to live again, and in
Yeah.
my case, you choose to do something completely different than you spent your last 25 years doing.
Right.
Because for me,
Yeah.
I couldn't do that anymore. It wasn't the same. That normal didn't work for me anymore.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so important for people to hear. Um, it would be hard to see that as a reality in the pain,
it's
but
very hard.
to hear that it is possible, I think just opens the door the smallest amount to be like, okay, there is something else possible here.
And I think if I can crack that door just enough to let the light in,
Yeah.
so that a grieving parent can see
Right.
that their life is not over. The
Yeah.
pain is not going to weigh them down for the rest of their living days.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, he is always here. He's always here. He's
Yeah.
always with me.
Right.
Um,
And
do
not in a
I,
way that it feels heavy, but I'm
right.
guessing because you seem at peace with it and you have
Yeah.
good memories, and there's a joy of remembering versus a sorrow.
Right. There's very definite a joy of
Mm.
remembering. I try to focus now on uh, don't grieve that he's gone,
Right.
and rejoice in
Mm.
that he was here.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I would love to be able to help parents
Mm.
everywhere, across the
Yeah.
nation, maybe across the world, because I have such
Yeah.
big dreams,
Yeah.
know that they can achieve inner healing
Mm-hmm.
and not have that heaviness all the time. And it really is okay to find joy and grieve,
Right.
which was a struggle for me. If I healed, it meant that he didn't serve, he didn't,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't, right? He wasn't
Yeah.
my son if I healed. And
Right.
that's not true at all.
Right. Right. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I love that. I feel like one of the things I really appreciate about this particular work that you do is that um, I think loss, especially like really heavy loss, like a child, really, or really any loss that is really significant to you. Um, it's hard for others don't know how to be around you. Like,
Exactly.
right. Like, it's like I'm walking on eggshells, and your loss is so uncomfortable for me that I might not even check in with you. And I would imagine parents who have lost kids, their friends have ghosted them, like not because they don't
Yes.
love them, but because it's so hard to be around and I don't know how to support you. I think that having community and having help and having somebody see you, like having you, Daelyn, see them,
Right.
understand them, and not have to walk on eggshells, but to be like right there would be a lot of times the breath of air I need
Exactly.
to move
Yeah.
forward.
Coming up for air, because you feel
Yeah.
like you're just drowning
Right.
in sorrow.
Yeah.
And to offer somebody that bubble of air,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
that can save their life
Right. Totally
is
agree.
I think one of the greatest things I could possibly do here on this
Yeah.
planet. And people
Mm.
don't want to acknowledge and
Mhm.
don't know what to say, don't know what to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, Even in cases where I had a family member I didn't hear from for a really long time, and I understand why now. He did not know what to say to me,
Right.
was lost,
Yeah.
and so it's better to say something than not say anything at all.
Mm.
But we parents want to hear our child's name, and we want to
Mm.
tell you about
Mm.
them
Mm.
and show you pictures like I did and let you know who they are and what their loves and joys were, and
Mm.
our dreams for them that we'll never see come
Wow.
true. And that is all a part of the gestalt healing
Yeah.
is
Wow.
sharing with somebody like me
Yeah.
what you've lost in your life So
Yeah. Wow. On one hand, I would say this is really deep, and on the other hand, I would say this is really encouraging and important. It takes a lot of courage, I think, to hold space for people to go through that type of a shadow, that type of a valley in life. And I think this is really, really important work. How do people learn about your work, Daelyn, or how do they reach out to you to work with you to move through something like this?
So I have a really great website, joyfulspiritcoaching.com.
Hmm.
And on there is all of my information, my phone number. You can also reach me at Daelyn at joyfulspiritcoaching.com. So it's
Cool.
DAELYN.
Perfect. Yeah.
And email me, and I'm there.
Perfect. So if you listening to this have lost a child or something else that's been very important to you, could have been a parent, a best friend, a pet, but if you've gone through loss, yeah, there is a new normal on the other side, and what there is to do is to reach out to Daelyn at joyfulspiritcoaching.com. Awesome. Daelyn, thank you for the work that you're doing. This is really, really important, really beautiful.
Thanks so much.